Hi, I'm Deb.
And I'm Dave.
And we're the Beddoes. And this is the third of our video series for National Recovery Month.
Not like officially licensed by National Recovery Month.
No, we're just
in
doing this
honor
on
of.
our own.
Yeah, no, we
Yes, in honor of National Recovery Month. And this video is about purpose. And these are their 4 themes that let me get this right here, Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration, SAMHSA.
Nicely done.
Thank you. That's their theme, their focus for this year's Recovery Month. Join the Voices for Recovery, and talking about health, home, purpose, and community. So purpose today, and I have some questions for Dave. And this is pretty exciting because they kind of laid out a definition of what they mean on this one for purpose. And this is how they how SAMHSA defines purpose. SAMHSA?
No, I don't know what it is.
Okay. Conducting meaningful daily activities such as a job, volunteerism, family caretaking, creative endeavors, and the independence, income, and resources to participate in society.
Good.
So it's kind of a large, inclusive definition.
A lot of stuff.
Yeah. So I'm basically going to interview Dave today about this. And we're going to start with the whole idea of conducting meaningful daily activities, such as a job, and how that actually helped.
So there was a lot of there's a lot in there. So first of all, before even getting to like having a job and stuff, it was super important. One of the hallmarks I think of me when I was in active addiction was inconsistency in all those things. You know, I'd sleep in some days and some days couldn't sleep. I was late for work all the time because I could not get myself out of bed. And some of that was chemical, you know, some of it just because sleep patterns were all wacky. And so some of the important things, and then there's some emotional, spiritual things, you know. So I think the very first thing, like literally the day after I got caught and got fired, was like, I need to get up early with you, because you always got up early. Yeah. And I would sit there and
do that, huh?
Yeah, you still do.
Not as much.
Not as much, but I would get up early and sit next to you on the couch and read my Bible at the same time you were reading. And so that just this thing that no matter what, I'm going to get up, no matter how I feel, no matter what, I'm just going to get up and do that. And so there's some of those kind of things were consistent. Trying to eat normal, trying to do just some normal daily activities, bathe, on a regular basis. So getting a job was huge, though. So yeah, one of the things is after I was asked to resign from my position, finding a job, I felt at that point super worthless, just like this said. You know, that one of the hallmarks of addiction was just feeling like you weren't worth. You know, you were putting up a front and I wasn't worth anything. And so the idea that I would have a job, that I would have to show up a regular job every single day, clock in, clock out. And the cool thing about that job though was, I could, not only just the dignity of having a job, but I proved to myself I didn't have to do it because of somebody I knew or some, special favor, or because I was a ministry guy. It was, I could go in and just be consistent, have a boss who would call me on it, have people who kind of didn't care what my past was, good or bad, but just like it was performance based, it was consistency based. And so I could come in and do a good job and be rewarded by them, but also to feel good about myself for every day doing something that wasn't super easy and do it well and be consistent.
The cool thing about that job too was right away you got to do something that was actually meaningful work.
Sure.
Because your job was what?
I was a credit counselor. I did counseling for people for a nonprofit, for people who were struggling with debt, who were facing foreclosure, who were facing bankruptcy. And so we would just do budget counseling, we would do debt counseling, we would do foreclosure prevention. And so it was significant. So that's the other part. So there's dignity that I have, but also one of the things that gives dignity, not just intrinsic, like I'm doing something good every single day, was I was doing something that has significant positive impact.
Yeah, it was doing good for other people.
And finding that,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you can find that in any job,
Mm-hmm.
right? I think what I learned over the years, so that was cool. You know, it wasn't a ministry job, but I could find I'm helping people.
Right.
And so that's super important. I think for all of us, we want significance.
Yeah. Yeah, that was good. That was good. Along the way, you also started, you had been through a 12-step recovery program, and then you started a 12-step meeting at our church. Right. And so tell me about that and how having that, I guess I could fall under volunteerism, I guess, how that also was helped in your recovery.
Right. Well, yeah, I mean, that's a big question. So step 12, of course, is that we carry this to others. And so the idea is that if you've experienced any healing, if you've experienced any growth, if you've experienced any sobriety, one of the kind of magic or one of the things about the 12-step program is in the end of it, the person who can help an addict the most or an alcoholic the most or any sort of destructive behavior, someone who's lived through it. Mm-hmm. And so that's part of the process that you pass it on. And then it really is, that's what keeps you sober. And a lot of it is because what seemed like this wreck of my life, that there was going to be 15 years that were just thrown away because of bad behavior. Mm-hmm. And because of addiction, helped me realize as I helped other people, there was some significance and some dignity that come out of that. Yeah. That I could understand where they were and understand it wasn't all bad. It wasn't like 15 years of nothing but evil. That I could look at somebody else who was even in the middle of it, wasn't even ready to stop yet, and say, not everything is bad about you. There is hope. There is dignity. And listen to what they say without judgment, and have a connection. So that was really powerful for me to realize maybe that isn't wasted. Those 15 years are not wasted. Right. It can be part of who I am now and part of what we do. Yeah.
You know, I've been reading, listening. We listen to a lot of audiobooks, but this one was so good. I actually just stopped listening to it and ordered it. And I ordered it the minute I listened to the sentence. This is a book called Option B. It's by Sheryl Sandberg and Adam Grant. And if you're familiar with Sheryl Sandberg, she was the Lean In person who, I can't remember when she wrote Lean In, if she worked for Facebook or not. Business leader, philanthropist, and chief operating officer at Facebook. Founded leanin.org. Anyway, shortly after she wrote that book, her husband died, just tragically, and suddenly. And so this book, Option B, is all about when your life doesn't work out the way that you thought, which I loved her comment. This has nothing to do with what we're talking about, but I do want to throw this comment out there because I thought it was so significant. Because she said that the complaints that she got about her book Lean In was that it didn't apply or resonate with single moms, with anyone who didn't have a 2-income household that was a partnership. And so she said in this book, she said, I realized how true that was. Wow. How could I lean in when I couldn't even stand up? Was so powerful to me. It's an excellent book. Excellent. I highly recommend it. But one of the things that she said is, after undergoing a hardship, people have new knowledge to offer those who go through similar experiences. It is a unique source of meaning because it does not just give our lives purpose. It gives our suffering purpose. Right. Oh, people help where they've been hurt so that their wounds are not in vain. And that is actually, sorry, does it make you all...
No, I mean, well, yeah, a little bit.
Yeah.
I mean, that is so profound.
It is profound. And it's actually, I mean, it reminds me, there's a scripture that says that really, that in 2 Corinthians talks about how God comforts us in our trials, and with the same comfort that he comforts us, we can comfort someone else. But that whole idea is that when we've had hardship, doesn't just give our lives purpose, it gives our suffering purpose. And I think that's exactly what you said, that 15 years that you felt like, this was a waste.
Right.
It actually has turned out to not be true.
Right. Well, in Celebrate Recovery, one of their you know, recovery 12-step programs have all sorts of slogans, you know, one day at a time. And one of them in Celebrate Recovery was God never wastes a hurt.
Yeah.
And so it just speaks to this idea that we may make some really stupid choices and experience a lot of pain.
Yeah.
But the beauty of God's redemptive story and the idea of, regardless, you know, God does it, I believe that wholeheartedly. But for anybody understanding just what she's saying in the book, that one of the only ways to survive and to maybe counteract an antidote to regret is to go, I can do something with this. I can make this a genuine antidote. Like when there's a toxin or a poison and someone is infected, you give them a little bit. Antidotes are made from that toxin.
Yeah.
We can inject somebody with a little bit of that and help them out of that and help them come. Wow, that's really
very
powerful.
Sciencey too.
I'm a sciencey guy. A lot of people don't know that about me.
That's good. But you know what you said there, it's so important too, because if you go down that road of regret too far, it can sink you.
Yeah.
Because it leads to serious depression and not being able to get out of bed in the morning. I mean, just because you feel so weighed down by the burden of your past, that you can't move forward because it just weighs so heavy on you.
Can I say something else here?
Sure.
So one of the things that I've been learning recently too is, so there's a flip side. It's both of those things. So one of the ways to defeat depression and get out of regret and that thing where you just feel like I can't. So we're talking about having purpose today. One of the things that keeps you from having purpose is regret. And then you just quit. All I want to do is stay in bed. All I want to do is just feel bad about what happened. And so one of the things that can help you feel better, good enough to get out of bed and go do something, is to begin to want to help somebody. But sometimes the thing that helps you defeat that is just getting up and doing it. So my thing is, you know, dealing with anxiety sometimes, like one of the reasons I took pills is because I would feel insecure and I'd feel anxiety and pills helped. And so I was talking to a guy who was saying that one of the ways to deal with that, when we feel anxiety and our blood pressure goes up and I get tense, he said, actually, the anxiety may still be there, but recognize those things in your body, breathe slower, relax. And the thing that made you anxious might still be there, but you will experience less anxiety. And it's so true. Same kind of thing for this. If I'm struggling with regret and that keeps me from doing anything, that cycle is going to continue. I'm going to have more regret. I'm going to have less purpose. And so it's kind of this two-way street. This may help me feel better about myself and realize my past wasn't wasted, and that I can begin to process the regret. And maybe one of the ways of processing the regret is just know, I got a job, or I have a volunteer meeting that I'm bringing the coffee tonight. So if I don't go, none of the people of the 12-step thing is going to have coffee. So I better get up and go, and you feel better in the middle of it.
You start with, you can start small. You don't have to start a whole program. You just start with something that contributes. I love there's so many examples of this principle in our culture of people who have had some sort of trauma or suffering, really, whether it was because of addiction, whether it was because of loss, whatever it is, wanting to give back. And I think about a couple of years ago, I went to a volunteer meeting at our local food bank, and people went around the room and kind of talked about why they were there. And I would say a good third of the people who were there were actually being served by the food bank.
Right. At the time, not like they were back on their feet.
Exactly. It was like cool. They were in the middle of crisis themselves, but they found significance, and it gave them their life meaning and purpose to actually go and serve at the food bank while the food bank is actually providing their food.
So it's like, and that's such a recovery group thing. We'll talk about that, I'm sure, in another video, but there will be people who are in the middle of their struggle, like, I didn't want to come today, but I knew if I didn't come, that guy was going to be there, or I heard someone new might come this week, so I thought, well, I don't want him to sit there all alone, so I'll show up. And then they all inevitably, I mean, maybe not 100%, but 99.3.
Yeah.
That was sciencey too.
It was.
But
math.
The people will, they'll come away and like, I'm so glad I came. Not
Yes.
because anything profound happened, just they were there and they were needed.
Yeah. Just their presence,
Yeah.
an encouraging presence. It's pretty awesome. And that just talks again about also having independence, income, and resources to participate in society. I cannot even begin to tell you how huge this is. I mean, having been, we have been there at the bottom of, like, you know, on food stamps. I mean, not able, having to get assistance for rent, having to get assistance for electricity. I mean, all of it. And there is a huge change in how you feel about yourself when you are finally able to provide for your family. When you're, and I want to say this, that process is a process, because the weird thing, the catch-22 of social services,
Right.
as far as government help goes, is that the better you're doing, the more you are able to provide for yourself, the less they provide. And I'm telling you, there were months where we would be like, oh my gosh, I got a raise, woohoo. And that entire raise, when we went to report our income to DSHS, it was like, okay, then you now lose $400 in food stamps. It was like, and then we would just be crushed. Like, we're really actually not making 2 steps forward.
Right.
It was just this cycle that honestly requires a lot of determination to move forward, when you realize that there's a no man's land, is how I call it.
Mm-hmm.
There's a little no man's land there, where the more you are doing for yourself and the less there's being done for you. And so you're kind of like basically just treading water until you can get some sort of break to go beyond, which is why things like food banks and stuff are so awesome, because they fill in the gaps.
But also there was, in the topic that we're talking about, for significance and dignity, making that, there's the result of having enough to survive is not the bottom line. And I know why it is. I mean, sometimes it is. Sometimes it is. We have to have food.
Right.
You have to have heat for your kids. But sometimes realizing that can't be the only determining factor. And there were times where, like, well, we're gonna have $20 less this month because you got a raise.
Yeah.
Or because, hey, I got a bonus. So sorry, we are gonna actually be down $300.
Yeah.
But we were like, you know what? Just felt better. It was more conducive to my recovery. Now, again, I'm not saying that's true in every situation, or if someone chooses a different path.
Right.
But you've at least got to consider that there's more than just how much dollars are in my bank.
Yeah. And it was discouraging for a while.
Yeah.
But finally getting to that independence point,
pretty cool.
Is pretty cool. And having the resources to participate in society, that's a big deal as well. There's so much. I mean, with having 4 kids who are in elementary school, in high school, there was so much that was asked of us financially during that time. I mean,
how many world's greatest chocolate bars can you eat?
Right.
The answer, 100.
Yeah. Well, there's you're paying for sports, you're paying for music, all this stuff.
School supplies, athletic fees,
so
fundraisers, choir. You want me to keep going?
No,
okay.
you have all of that stuff that normal families are doing. And when you have a family who is digging their way out of a traumatic event, of addiction, of depression, maybe job loss, an illness, whatever it is, those things can isolate even more, because you can't fully participate in society like everybody else. And where was I going with this? Because it seems like it's no,
but that's super important. Being involved in society, being involved in normal society, talk about helping your dignity.
Yeah.
That you can stop viewing yourself in regret, stop viewing yourself as all of my life is just a consequence of these bad choices.
Right.
And that there is not just hope for me to be clean. Just like I was saying that with the physical side, I had to say at the beginning, it feels like I'm going to feel miserable and withdrawally all the time.
Right.
Same thing with society and opportunity and significance. You know what? I'm not always going to be the broken guy with a broken family because I was an addict for 15 years.
Right.
I can have significance. We can help others the way we have been helped. We can be kind of normal, natural part of a community and a society, and do things like put our kids in sports, put our kids in music, and not do everything,
right?
But kind of have the opportunity to make those choices, and that gave us a lot of hope.
Yes.
And hope, a simple part of hope is looking forward to something.
Yeah.
So there's actual hope of like, you know what? For a long time, tomorrow was worse than today.
Yeah.
And finally, we're at the place where, wow, tomorrow's probably going to be better.
Yes.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, because you live for a long time thinking, especially when you were in the early stages of withdrawal and recovery, of thinking, well, this is my life now.
Yeah.
I'm never going to feel better than this.
Right.
And to actually get to that point where you do, that's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Well, thank you for listening again. Next time we get to talk about community, which we're both pretty excited about. And I think that's it.
Awesome.
Thanks for watching.
Thank you.